Today is the final installment of the Grand Prix attack in the Sicilian defense. I'm going to start off with a game where I beat a 2600 FIDE master. I think that's a good way to start off these opening videos. My apologies for not uploading in a week. I was trying to get together a schedule or idea as to when to upload. I figure every day is a bit too much for now. So I decided I'm going to upload at least 2 times a week. So definitely on Fridays and definitely on Mondays. One opening video and one video with a random idea. It could be a famous game, could be maybe another opening video, tactics, positional, anything I want to review or anything you guys comment and want to see. And then maybe I'll upload on some random days, but for sure Mondays and Fridays. So my apologies for not uploading in a week. But yes, today we're going to be discussing the freak attack, whether that be G4 or G3, basically when they play A6 and stop our bishop from coming to B5. This game is going to be a review from one of the other lines that we already talked about. I got this game this morning, so figured I would show it. So bishop to B5, they did not play A6. Now here we discussed them going A6, we discussed them going knight D4. This is going to be a main line knight to D4, and remember, never take this knight. Leave it on D4 and just get castled. Here their options are A6, then you go bishop back to D3. They have knight takes, D5, E5. Those are all referenced in the old videos. E6 is played, not a mistake, but not a great move. I like to push E5 here because if they're not careful, now we can snap off the knight and come here with tempo, and they have some holes in their position. Sometimes your knights can rotate over and attack F7 very quickly. So in my eyes, E6 is a mistake, even though it's not horrible. Knight E7 is a decent move, trying to get castled. And now if I ever come to D6, they have knight F5 to guard D6. So that is the idea. I like snapping off the knight and still centralizing my own knight. If they are to go knight F5 here, I would go G4. So there's an intro to G4 ideas in the Sicilian. And if the knight moves, I have this beautiful check, and then I just attack them on the dark squares that they made weak by going pawn to E6. Don't make your dark squares weak, don't make your light squares weak. They did both, or they did one this game. They made their dark squares weak. Here, I didn't know what to do, but I did bishop D3. I know I'm happy with my bishop on D3. In the future, it can go to E4, guard this diagonal. I just don't want it getting hit with tempo, and then a fianchetto. So I did this. And I'm still considering B3, bishop A3 ideas. We get knight F5, does not stop me from going B3. I could go G4, but I didn't feel like it. I felt like going B3, so I went B3. Now we get D5, and this is kind of what I had planned when I went B3. I hope they would do this, because after en passant, they take back, and do you see the problem here? What should white do? White should not take and take. White should go bishop A3 and pin. And it's not so clear here. What do? If they go rook e8, I win a knight. If they don't, I still win a knight. They cannot add a defender onto this knight on d6, and that is a big problem. So they have to take. Now I take the rook, and here they took with the king. So I snapped off the knight, centralizing my own bishop. d3 is a pesky move, must admit. And what do you think white should do here? Well, the move is c3. You shut down their dark squared bishop. You guard everything on the 4th rank, and you are nice and safe. We get F5. He's kind of playing desperate because he needs to do something. He's down in exchange, and queen D6. So immediately when I see queen D6, I'm like, okay, I want to trade into an endgame because maybe their bishops will wake up one day and they'll have some batteries and I'll be bothered. So a queen trade, I will not be bothered. I'll be up in exchange. They are guarding, or they're attacking F4, so I must guard with G3. But the idea when I see queen d6 to trade off is to get my queen on a3. And I think with rook b8 hoping for b5 or b6 and then bishop b7 or something, I'm going to go a4, and he's not so much going to see my idea right away. So I go queen c1 trying to rotate to a3, and here my opponent finds a good move. He plays the move e5. And here's why it's not good to get tunnel vision, because I could get the trade I wanted, but at the expense of him being able to go e4, and now I feel like he has some serious compensation. My light squared bishop is pretty garbage. There might be some overwhelming e3 push that destabilizes my pawn on c3 and can get him to, in the future, promote or something. So I wanted to avoid all that. So after e5, I did take. He takes with the queen, and now I gave the check. So I don't get a queen trade, but arguably this is actually much better. I get my rook centralized, and now it's just about checkmate. He has to go queen c5 and trade off the queens, in which case I would just get my rook on the 7th and apply a bunch of pressure. He declined the queen trade, and now bishop d5 is just winning. His king cannot go to f8. I cover both these diagonals, has to go to h8, rook e8, and he resigns because his only move is bishop f8, and I would just take. My queen does guard. So kind of a nice short game of things going south in the Sicilian and things going north for the Grand Prix attack. So we do like that. But that was a recap video on a game that I got in a line in it. Now we're going to talk about the freak attack. So there's many ways this can come about. I'm going to say it stems from an O'Kelly when they go a6 very early and you can't go bishop b5. Everything we've discussed is to go bishop b5. So now what do we do with the bishop? There are some bishop e2 lines, but I view those a little too passive. Bishop e2, bishop d1 later on when their knight goes to d4. But I decided to make it on the fianchetto, whether it be a fianchetto or an extended fianchetto. I think the bishop deserves to be on g2. Personal preference. Knight c6. Now I'm going to say this is a common move because bishop b5 is stopped, so you're not getting anything there. Now you could go d3, you could go knight f3. I put d3 in first because it's just a slower system. We're not really playing for like fast-paced game, basically. We're just going to develop. Now, one line is if they go e6. If they go e6, get the fianchetto with g3, bishop g2, and you're nice and safe in the center. If they go knight ge7, I just put in development moves, knight f3. If they go d4, I actually like knight e2 here. I know we discussed knight b1, getting it to c4. The idea of knight e2, and what I want to stress in this middle game, is that we're going to castle, they are also going to castle, and then we are going to play for g4, and this knight on e2 can go to g3, and you control a lot of squares on the 5th rank. Probably going to be playing for f5, maybe g5, rarely e5. I would refrain from e5 because then they can jump into the holes and counterclaim that diagonal with their bishop. So I'd be playing more for g5 and f5 in this middle game. So that is one line. Now, another line is, let's say they go g6. I think this is more common. You still get your knight out, you still go g3, and you still go bishop g2. So kind of a safe approach we're taking. Now, on knight d4, I wanted to go a little bit further here. What not to do when they go knight d4? Well, what not to do is do not take. If you take, these are good doubled pawns, and they're going to apply a lot of pressure on c2. So here what I would do is e5. When it comes with a tempo, it is a good move. Their knight cannot jump in. It should not go to h5. If it goes to h5, you go g4, and that would be a trapped knight. So it needs to go to e8. And see, they're very passive, and we are pretty active. Here I like to move knight e4. Maybe I'm going to go c3, have them trade, and get all my pieces out. And they are jammed up on the 8th rank. So this is the slower approach to the Grand Prix. Now we're going to go over the faster approach. That is, oops, that's a mouse slip. That happens a lot. Much more than it should. But let's say they're playing it like this, and then they go d5, for example. Here's a position where I would like to go g4. The point of g4 is that if they go knight f6, you go g5, and they need to move their knight away, and you just continue with, well, here they would actually just drop a pawn. So the point is, when their knight is on f6, g5 is going to be very, very good. If they go h5, you go g4 and close it. You're going to get a super center, or a super flank attack, rather, when they castle. If they castle on the queen side, I would try prying open the queen side, and b3, bishop b2 is going to be a standard idea. Other ways this could come about is basically when they don't go knight f6 early. So like say they take like a slower approach with e6 and d6, for example. Here's an example where g4 works very well, where they're not even claiming the center. And I like to play it like this. So if you're very, very aggressive, I recommend going g4. We're going to call that the freak attack. The reason I call it the freak attack is in the Najdorf, there's a line where you go g4, and the point is to go rook g1, g5. So in my head, g4 is tied to the freak attack. So I'm going to call it the freak attack. I don't know if it actually has a name, but I know Ivan Ivanisevic, a famous grandmaster from Serbia, has a lot of cool games with g4. I will review some of those and show you the ideas in them. I'll also show you my games. My games are not as good as Ivan's, but it's very aggressive, so it's very fun. So a short video today. I want to get into streaming. I haven't decided which platform, whether it be Twitch, YouTube, or Kick. Probably YouTube or Kick. Hopefully Kick, but I'm going to research how streaming works. I know it can't be that difficult. There are a lot of idiots that stream, so I'm sure I'll figure it out. And it'll probably be me like solving puzzles, maybe playing online, though I feel like I don't play as well if I'm streaming. So I'd rather it be studying at first just till I get comfortable in it, which I know I will. I remember when I started making YouTube videos, I did not, felt so awkward, but over time it feels less awkward and we will get there. So hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day.